Welcome to the Bold Podcast. I'm Todd Burg, keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and mental fitness coach. I'm here to help you unlock your leadership potential and ignite your personal growth. On the Bold, my guests and I will dive into inspiring stories of transformation, showing how small mindset shifts can lead to life-changing benefits. We'll explore strategies for overcoming challenges, building high-performance habits, and leading with confidence. If you're ready to embrace a growth mindset and unlock your full potential, then let's ignite your spark today. Today on the Bolt Podcast, I'm honored to sit down with the legend himself, Bob Burg, whose work has sparked a worldwide movement. For more than 30 years, Bob has been equipping entrepreneurs, leaders, and sales professionals with the tools to build meaningful relationships, communicate their value, and accelerate growth. He's the author of multiple best-selling books, including the sales classic, Endless Referrals, but he's best known as a co-author of the Go-Giver series, a collection of parables that have sold over 1 million copies and have been translated into 30 languages. Beyond his books, Bob leads the Go-Giver Academy and publishes the widely read Daily Impact email, helping people everywhere apply the principles of value, influence, and service. A passionate defender of free enterprise and a dedicated advocate for animal rescue, Bob continues to inspire us all to live, lead, and succeed the Go-Giver way. Listeners, get ready for an incredible conversation. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the Bold Podcast, my friend.
Hey, Todd. It's so great to be with you.
Thank you for being on our show. I know you get a lot of requests, but I truly appreciate your time and your wisdom that you're going to share with myself and our listeners.
I know we have some mutual friends, and I told you I love seeing your How to Win Friends and Influence People book to the upper left of you for those who are watching.
I love that. It's a small little paperback, but it's easy to travel with, put in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know, from listening to past episodes from you on other shows, I could tell you were a big fan as well. So that's excellent. Well, first off, I just want to say congratulations on all of your success. You know, like millions of other people, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
I love your work. And, the one thing that I love too, again, just from what I've read and I've learned about you is your work ethic. Like you mentioned in your books, do the work. Like Frank says, right? The character Frank, do the work. You've done the work, back from starting in radio to sales, to news, to sales, and now into, being a prolific author and many other things. I love that you've done the work. And I assume that probably comes from your childhood upbringing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, it always starts there, doesn't it? It takes more than just that. But without that as the foundation, probably nothing else of significance is going to happen.
Right. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't assume, but everybody knows your name. Everybody knows the books that you've written, or at least the Go-Giver for sure. I don't know that everybody knows that you're also an accomplished speaker as well. NSA Hall of Fame speaker, also a very accomplished entrepreneur. So I'm an entrepreneur as well. And I can see what you've built here, Bob. You probably won't like the word empire, but you've turned this simple concept of the Go-Giver into a really miraculous business.
Todd, the interesting thing, though, is really it was so much more about the people I've surrounded myself with. This is not something I did alone by any means. And this is not humility or anything. This is absolute truth. I mean, and I'd be fibbing if I was to imply otherwise. First, starting with John David Mann himself, by the way, great entrepreneur, but just a wonderful, wonderful writer who is a magnificent storyteller and really made the book and all the books sing, right? And then my business partner, Kathy Tajanel, for years and years, I call her, she's a strategist. I call her the branding brain, behind the whole Go-Giver movement. So yes, thanks to her, we were able to take a book and then really put it together with a lot of other areas where people could tie into the message. So And then, all the people are certified go-giver speakers and coaches who are out there spreading the message, and just so many people have been a part of this.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And let's talk about co-authoring. What was that like?
Well, in this case, it was very easy because John is the better writer. You know what I'm saying? I'm a how-to author, so all my books before and after the Go-Giver, other than the last one I did with Jeff West, which is called Streetwise to Saleswise, Become Objection Proof, and Beat the Sales Blues. That is a business parable that I co-authored with Jeff, who, again, great author. He was a fantastic salesperson and sales leader. But all my other books, except for the Go-Giver ones with John, were all how-to books: Endless Referrals, Adversaries into Allies, The Art of Persuasion, all of them. So there was no question. John was the lead writer and storyteller. That made it easy. Because I would imagine if you have two people who are pretty much equal in ability as writers, and if you have two people whose egos are really invested in it, there's probably issues. With John and, again, involved. John's just he's the most humble guy you could meet. And so as we worked on it, and, John we discuss what we wanted to have happen. John would write a scene. We'd go over it line by line, letter by letter, everything, but he was always just so open to ideas and to feedback and so forth. So it was really a pleasure the whole way through. The toughest thing about getting that book out there was that once our agent started shopping it around to New York publishing houses, we got turned down, I think, 24 times.
Serious?
Yeah, before the 25th one, Portfolio, a division, an imprint of Penguin Random House, picked it up, and they were the perfect publishing partner. Now, they were wonderful, and so everything happens when it's supposed to. But yeah, that was the toughest part. The easy part was writing the book with John. That was a joy. The toughest part was actually getting it picked up by a publishing house.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know. Got turned down that many times. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I assume there's a lot of publishing houses that are kicking themselves in the butts right now.
The book they want, a couple of no's we received was, we said, let's not let our egos get in the way. Let's really get in. By the way, our agent, Margaret McBride, she was fantastic in terms of getting feedback, and she had such great relationships with these people that she could always ask, okay, well, that's fine. What is it that I can suggest to John and Bob? Right? And so she'd bring back the suggestions. Now, what we did is we considered each suggestion or feedback. Now, some, again, they just didn't like the book. Some was, we don't think a business parable is going to sell. Those are the ones maybe who are thinking, who maybe rethought it afterwards. But there were others who there was something. But here's what happened. And by the way, every so often we get some advice regarding the content. And so we considered whether we needed to make a little change. That was fine. But here was the big one. After about, I think it was the first or 22nd rejection, they said, well, we liked everything about it, but we don't think Bob and John have a big enough platform. Now, Todd, that when publishers says platform, what they mean is people who know them so well already that they'll buy the book just because it's them.
Right.
And now we knew that wasn't correct. We knew that both of us had pretty big platforms. However, if the prospect, right, we're always talking in terms of sales, right? If the prospect doesn't think so, well, that's what they're thinking. So obviously I had not communicated the message well that we had a big enough platform. So we went back to the drawing board, redid our entire video in order to position it much better and really communicate the platform we had. And then very quickly after that, we got it published. So, I think it's a matter of listening to everything, not necessarily accepting everything. You're right, but listening to it and asking, does this make sense? And then how do we, leverage that?
Yeah, and that's coming in with an open mindset, being curious enough, right? I love that. Did you ever think, Bob, that this book would be as successful as it is today? And it's funny because once I read the book last year on vacation, and ever since then, it's become part of business vernacular. At least, it's been that way, I'm sure. I've noticed it now.
I so appreciate that.
And you'll appreciate this. So I said, well, let me just ask AI. I said, AI, is this Is go-giver part of the English dictionary? I said, no, not yet, but it is. I mean, people talk. It's like, I'll Google this, right? If you're talking about sales, servant leadership, you're talking about the go-giver. How does that feel? I mean, that's just gotta just feel incredible that you created this, you and John David created this book, this story that has resonated so well, 30 plus languages, over 1 million copies. It's just incredible. Did you ever think that, that it might have that type of influence, that type of potential?
We thought it would be well received by the marketplace. I don't know if we knew it was going to go this big as it did. And I think a lot of things happened that helped it to. And one of it was that the publisher was just fantastic as far as allowing us to seed this book into the hands of leaders. So we got tons of copies from the publisher.
Okay.
They were totally encouraging about it. And we got, and John and I did have a decent platform. And because of all the people he's interviewed, right, over the years as a writer, the people I've appeared on stage with, we had people who were willing to read the book. And so when they did, a lot of them started passing it along to other leaders, and we had a whole bunch of people. So the first emails that we received, I guess you could say the first adopters or early adopters of the book, were the people who didn't need it. These are simply the people who had built their businesses doing this kind of stuff long before the book ever came out. Remember, Todd, and you know this, there's nothing in the book that's new. Right. And Jim Rohn, the great speaker, philosopher, used to say, beware the person who comes to you promising new fundamentals. And right. And so there's nothing new in it. Right. We just, we kind of repackaged it and put it into it. So a lot of leads. So the emails we got from these leaders were, this is how I built my business, but nobody believes me. No one on my team believes me. Now, why? Because remember, the mindset, the belief system is that sales or business has to be cutthroat and dog eat dog and blah, blah, blah. Now, again, there's a lot of people out there who do things in ways we don't like, but
sure,
sustainably successful people out there, right? The leaders, the salespeople, the entrepreneurs, they understand that what they need to do is absolutely be laser focused on providing immense value to the lives of others.
Right.
Right. I often, when I used to speak at sales conferences, I would say, the first thing I'd say is nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet.
Right.
Right. They're not going to buy from you because you have a sales goal or you need the money or even because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you because they believe they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so. Same with leadership. No one's going to follow you because you have a certain goal you want to reach. Right. So we always have to make it about them. That's the beauty of a free enterprise-based marketplace. No one's forced to do business with you.
Right.
So you've got to make it worthwhile for them. And now when you do that from a place of authenticity, from a place of true heart and caring, wow, now you're 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game. So that was our first. Then what happened is the second wave of feedback, emails, adopters were my boss gave me this book. My sales manager gave me this book. My whatever. And so basically they were using us as third-party credibility.
Right.
Because, people wouldn't believe them, but, well, they'll believe the author of this book who's saying basically the same thing that they've been telling them. And I think that's what really happened. And then from there, it just kind of spread to all other, different areas of life. It's like How to Win Friends and Influence People. It started as a business book and then sort of spread to,
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And I'm really curious, Bob. Did you always want to write a business parable? Because you had written other books, and there's so many other ways to go. And I'll be honest, I'm a sucker for good business parable. And I don't read.
I love them.
Oh yeah, Energy Bus, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Yeah, John.
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That Robin Sharma.
That was one. Salesperson.
Yeah.
But Chris Widener has some. Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton, Go for No. Wonderful, wonderful, really short parable that is just, I always say, I wish that had been written when I first got into sales 40 years ago, because I could have used that. So, there's tons of them. And I see you have a Traction up there to the left in your, Traction's not a parable, but their other book, Get a Grip, I think that was a parable.
Yeah. I guess you're supposed to read Get a Grip before you read Traction. I read Traction first.
Yeah.
But yeah, Get a Grip really allowed me. And that's what I love about A Business Parable and what I loved about your book. Well, I have to jump in here, Bob, and talk about your book, The Go-Giver Leader. This is the blue book for those of you that have the full Go-Giver series of books. So this is what you're known for, right? This is what, at least for the Go-Giver series. But this book, I picked this up last week as, I knew I was going to be interviewing you and I wanted to read it. And Bob, I read this in one day. Now, it's not a big book, but I'm a slow reader. I was up till 1:30 in the morning. I couldn't put this book down. Bob, like I said, there's a lot of other parables out there. This, my friend, and I'm not blowing smoke here, is a masterpiece. There were moments, Bob, where I teared up. That's how the story is so well done.
Again,
I can't even.
That's John. And
I can't even. Please do. I saw myself, Bob, in every single character. In Alan, and Augustine, Frank. I'm definitely Frank. And Karen. And I think I love Ann L. There's so much about this book that I loved. And I just want people to know there's more to Bob Burg than the first Go-Giver book. Please go out and get the series. There's 3 books. There's a guide. There's the Go-Giver Sell More. That's a practical guide that digs into the 5 laws of stratospheric success. So there's a lot more here, Bob.
Thank you.
I love it. Do you mind spending some time on this guy right here?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to talk about the backstory. I love how humble you are and vulnerable you are. And tell us a little bit about what happened with this original title and jacket.
What we found out is that we didn't. Readers stayed away in droves. And we could not figure out why. It was probably as good, if not better than the first book. But it just wasn't selling. So, kind of for a couple of years, we're, wondering, and I'm every so often asking people. So one day I'm talking to Tom Ziglar, Zig Ziglar's proud son, Tom, who Tom and his family have done just a magnificent job of carrying on his dad's legacy. And they're just fantastic. So Tom and I were just talking about it one time. And I just cannot figure out why this thing didn't sell. And he goes, well, think about the title, Bob. It's not about you. So if I'm looking at this book and the title is, it's not about you, I might be thinking, well, if it's not about me, why would I want it? And, he was absolutely, of course, Zig Ziglar's son would figure that out because Zig was such a great writer. But here's the other thing, too. The Go-Giver, again, having to do with the title. The Go-Giver, a lot of its sales are from people gifting it to others as a compliment, to say, this is you, right? The Go-Giver. This is you. You're a Go-Giver. It's a compliment. Now, if you give someone as a gift a book titled, It's Not About You, everything about that title was actually wrong. So this was a couple of years after The Go-Giver came out. The Go-Giver was really selling well. And so we said, the best thing to do is just tie it right into the brand, because the brand had really started to develop. Right. We really have to, and John and I talk about this a lot, that we really credit our publisher for this, Adrian Zackheim, who's the head of portfolio, because very rarely will a publisher change a book title.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
Because they have to go back, they have to do the printing and the marketing and the whole thing, but they did it.
How long had it been out before you guys?
About 2 years.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So that's yeah. We'll be right back after this short message. Hey, it's Todd again. Did you know that mental fitness is the secret weapon for transformational leadership? Your mind may be sabotaging you, leading you down a path of stress and negativity, but it doesn't have to be this way. If you're ready to unlock the resilience to empower yourself and the team you lead, listen up. Through the Positive Intelligence Program, PQ for short, I help leaders build mental strength, manage stress, and increase emotional intelligence. Imagine reducing burnout, improving your relationships, and increasing performance, all backed by neuroscience. Look, I'm living proof of its power, having rewired my brain after building my mental fitness with PQ over the last 5 years. Are you ready to build yours? Visit toddbirch.com for more information, and let's get a free consultation scheduled today. Now back to the show.
Yeah, it worked out well, and we changed the title. You know, they say, Todd, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but that's what people do. They judge a book by its cover and its title.
Right. Look at your shelf. Look at my shelf. That's the first thing we're going to see. Well, if we're going to the bookstore, or if we're shopping on Amazon or Goodreads, wherever.
Sure.
If you don't know the book, if somebody didn't gift it to you, like you said, right, which oftentimes happens. No. So this book's incredible. I want to dig into just a few things here, Bob, that resonated with me. Of course, I mentioned my love for Ann. Don't react, respond. It reminds me of Viktor Frankl and his quote, having that space, right? Having the space to be able to choose your response.
Yes.
And Bob, I don't know about you, but I struggle for years with having little to no patience, a little bit of a temper, knee jerk, right? 1 to 10. Just,
right there with you. I was absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, that did not serve me well in any of my relationships, let alone my business and being a leader. And then 5 years ago, I got introduced to, and I don't know if you're familiar with Shirzad Chamine and his New York Times best-selling book, Positive Intelligence.
No, it sounds fascinating.
Okay, yeah, I'll send that to you. He's from Stanford. It's a mental fitness program. So first a book, now like you, he's kind of built, this business kind of empire off of it. He's got an app, a coaching program, which I went through the program. I'm also a coach now, but it's all about what he calls, Bob, the sage perspective, which is finding the gift and opportunity in every situation, regardless of how hard it is and how hard you got to dig. It's there. The gift is there. And that's what I love about this book is, when Alan and Augustine, their building burns down.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, crap, I might be out of business. But come to find out, there's a gift there, the best gift ever. It gives them the opportunity to find this very unique and beautiful way of coloring wood that then takes their business to a whole nother level. So again, there was a lot of these little anecdotes in there that relate to positive intelligence and that don't react, respond, being tactful, just pausing, yielding, right? More power and yielding. So there were just so many of those things that just resonated with me. And I just love this book, and I'm going to give this. I used to give the red one away. I call them by the colors now, the red one. I used to give the red one away. Now I'm going to give the blue one away. But I wanted people to understand how important this book is as a leadership book, and just how well John David created that story. It's beautiful.
He was a great leader too. And when he was 17 years old, John dropped out of school and started his own private school.
Really?
That's
I'd love to.
Renaissance man kind of guy. The guy just knows stuff. But yeah, he actually formed his own. He just wasn't happy with what was happening, with the school he was attending. Didn't think he was getting. So he formed his own private school. And some of the kids, their parents were behind it. They actually hired a teacher to. It was really a fascinating story. So a lot of the leadership lessons John was doing when he was 17 years old, he kind of figured these things out. So what's funny with the books, because, the Go-Giver is our first one. And of course, Go-Giver Sell More is the only one in the series, not a parable. That is just it's a how-to guide for the Go-Giver. So the Go-Giver Leader is John's favorite book in the series. My favorite is the Go-Giver Influencer, because it's about the purple one, because it's about people skills. And then, now John and his wife, Anna, wrote their own book in the series about 2 years ago called The Go-Giver Marriage.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
And so what it is, what they did so brilliantly, it's half, the first part is a parable. The second part is how to.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, fascinating and just wonderful human beings.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so cool that you're able to find that partnership with somebody, have the humility, put egos aside, and just really play off each other's strengths. I want to know, correct me if I'm wrong, but both of your books, The Go-Giver Leader and The Art of Persuasion, came out at the same time. How did you manage that?
I called it Winning Without Intimidation. Now, Charlie, I don't know if you remember Charlie Tremendous Jones. You're a little young for that, but Charlie was like one of the old-time the speakers on the massive rallies with Paul Harvey and Dr. Zig some of the real old timers in terms of, and so Charlie was a book person, a great insurance agent who turned into a speaker and was lover of books, and so his company, so he sold tons and tons of books to different clientele. He really liked Winning Without Intimidation, and he asked me if he could have a limited rights to it. Okay, so I would keep the copyright and the rights, but he could also sell it, and so he did. And now Charlie passed away about maybe 12, 13 years ago, I think. And his daughter, Tracy, who's again a fantastic leader, wonderful person, she took over the company. She then did a partnership with Sound Wisdom Publishing, and who took over the book. They asked me if we could slightly update it and then rename it The Art of Persuasion, which we did, which I thought was a good idea. I thought it was a better title. And The Art of Persuasion has sold very well. The challenge that I have with that is about, I think in 2015, 2016, I wrote a book called Adversaries into Allies, which was an updated thing of that, which really was much better, I think, than The Art of Persuasion, because I had years and years more experience. Didn't really sell. And so, I'm retitling it, rewriting some of it, and we're going to release that in January. So there's all sorts of overlap with a lot of these, things. But the cool thing is, it seems like everybody I do business with and are all great people. So it's a lot of fun along the way. But you also make, you make mistakes. And obviously, The Adversaries to Allies was a lousy title, and so, and I know that because it didn't sell.
Right.
So, just like it's not about you. So sometimes you just kind of accept what is. Well, you hopefully always accept what is. You live in reality, right, and then you work at making it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And you mentioned overlap, and you also mentioned that, and it's pretty obvious that influence is at the center of all three of the Go Giver books. Were you inspired by Dale Carnegie in his books?
Yeah, I think that was the first book I read actually on people skills.
Okay.
The funny thing is, growing up, my dad was the best when it came to people skills. So I got to watch his example all the time. But with him, he just had such a natural interest in caring for and about others, always wanting to help people feel genuinely good about themselves. And it didn't matter who the person. So I got to watch that. And so then when I got into sales and started reading all these great personal development books, and How to Win Friends was one of the first, I'm watching, I think, wow, this is just like my dad, But of course, and then Dale Carnegie took it so that you understood the science behind it. And you understood why human nature is the way it is. And then I started reading a lot of books. I don't know how many books I've read on influence and persuasion and so forth. And it still always comes back, though, when I have an issue with someone or something, and it's always, how would Dad handle it, right? And so again, very blessed in that way. But yeah, the Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I always say it doesn't matter what books are written on that topic; it still goes back to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Right. That's awesome. Well, I know we're getting close here, Bob, to time, and I want to respect your time. You have some time for a lightning bolt round?
Sure, let's.
We can't be on the bolt without a lightning bolt round, right?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Absolutely.
So, of all the parables, who's your favorite character, Bob?
Wow, what a great question. I think it's Gus.
Gus, okay.
The original one. We won't say who. I don't want to ruin it for people if they haven't read the book and if they want to. But he played a kind of a small but significant role.
Right.
And so that was
okay. For me, it's Annelle and Frank from the Go Giver Leader. I love Frank. I just can picture his mammoth hands and this brawny dude that's just doing the work, loves his people, loves what he does.
Again, John just has a way of being able to, it's a parable, so you can only go so deep, and yet somehow he takes these characters and he makes them come alive.
It is, and it's under 150 pages. I don't know how he does it. That's what I'm saying. It's just it's really a masterpiece. Oh gosh,
you've got a ton of people that if you go to JohnDavidMann.com, and you
Okay.
go to his page. But it's he has a whole thing about his mastery workshop, and
Mm,
it's just phenomenal. I've had so
okay.
many people come to me and said, this was just game changing.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to have to check that out. Thank you. If you could sit down with Dale Carnegie, what would you ask him?
Oh my goodness gracious! Just how
That's a tough one, right?
understanding of human nature and so beautifully communicated, and change so many lives. I mean, that would wow.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Now, I have to assume you've met a lot of famous people with the success that's been created, by everything that you've done. Has there been somebody where you were just starstruck? You're like, oh man, I just love meeting this person.
Zig Ziglar would have to be right
Okay,
there. And here's
that's
the
awesome.
interesting thing, and we have Zig. We used to do uh, a, a once a year event where we'd have a whole bunch of speakers come in. And one year we had Zig come in, and John and I presented him the Lifetime Go Giver Achievement, award.
Mm,
But Zig at that time, and you may know the last couple of years were difficult because son or daughter Julie usually would be on stage with him to help kind of keep him on track. So he was on stage. His son Tom and his wife Mrs. Ziglar, the famous redhead, and she told me afterwards it was the only time in his entire career she was actually on stage with him. Yeah. Yeah. And so we gave him the award and he was just, he was wonderful. But afterwards, the three of them, Tom, Mrs. Ziglar, and Zig were signing autographs for people. They must have taken 2 hours and talked with everyone, taken pictures of the people, hugging people. And I'll tell you, it was like a 3-day event. We had all these wonderful speakers there who all did a bang up job. More feedback was just about how the Ziglar family was everything that anyone would expect them to be. And more.
what a beautiful, beautiful moment. Wow. Wow. Bob, do you have a life motto that you live by?
Yeah, I think I do. And again, and let me give you two of them. But one we'll go back to Zig for a second. Zig's most famous saying, which is usually butchered by people, okay, but his most famous saying, and that is, "You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." Okay, now, and then the other one would be my life motto, and this is just not something that my dad ever said, but just based upon how my dad lived his life, and that would be do your best to make everyone feel genuinely good about themselves.
Love it. That's a great way to end right there. My dad was the same way, a man of very few words, Bob, but I look back, he's still around and still doesn't say much, but I said, did he really teach me anything? And hell yeah, he did. I watched
Learn by
what he did and how he treated people. And you know what? It all started with a smile, Bob. I know that's mentioned in one of your books, smiling. It's a simple thing, a simple gesture.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Goes a long way. Well, we're both blessed to have great parents, to be able to learn from and grow up with, and yeah.
Absolutely. Bob, what are you reading right now?
Rory of Vaden, and also, so he co-authored this with his wife AJ, Wealthy and Well Known. They did and just came out. He did an absolutely fantastic job, and Rory and AJ do a great job with everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. Bob, this has been great, my friend. Thank you so much for spending time with me and for our audience and for devoting your life to just creating, these wonderful stories with your friend, David Mann. Just beautiful. I love it. I love what you're doing. I have a great respect for you. And hopefully I get to meet you in person someday. My son's in Tampa. I know it's not very close to where you're at, but who knows? Or maybe I can get you on the stage speaking. I know you do a little speaking down in Florida still and a lot of virtual, but we'll have a lot in the show notes for everybody. And again, Bob, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Todd, thank you. You too. Appreciate you greatly.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate that. Hi, guys. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with the amazing Bob Burg. Very appreciative of his time that he gave us today and the wisdom that he imparted. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. As you know, our podcast at Bolt is all about personal growth and leadership. And this conversation was definitely, one of my favorites. And I do want to talk about and leave you with one final thought. Bob and David Mann, their book, The Go-Giver Leader, which is the blue book, is my favorite. It's an excellent business parable. And I want to leave you with this one quote from the book that summarizes our show. It goes like this: you can only lead as far as you can grow. You can grow only as far as you can let yourself. The choice is yours. If you're not growing, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not leading, and you're not living. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Bolt Podcast. I appreciate you spending some time with us today, and it's been a pleasure being part of your journey toward growth, transformation, and leadership. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and leave a review. It truly helps us reach more people like you. Interested in taking your leadership to the next level? Visit toddbirch.com to learn more about my keynote speaking, corporate training programs, and my positive intelligence coaching. Look, I'm here to help you build the mental resilience and leadership skills that drive lasting change. And remember, progress comes from small, consistent steps. Keep moving forward, my friends. And before we wrap, a quick reminder that the information shared on the Bolt Podcast, along with anything from toddbirch.com or all my social media channels, is for informational and educational purposes only. We all need support, and if you're seeking meaningful guidance, one of the best things you can do is talk to a licensed professional, whether that's a physician, therapist, or coach. Hey guys, take care of yourself, stay kind to your mind, and remember, help is always available when you need it. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.